nostalgic episode of Jim at the Movies, the show where the two of us sit down and give our opinions on movies we've seen. I'm Matthew Oswald.
And I'm Jimmy Price. And before we start today's Blast from the Past review, we must first announce the nominees for Trailer of the Week. As expected, we'll be doing the same thing as we did for the last couple of reviews. So, Matt, are you ready to begin?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely ready to begin, Jimmy. And the nominees for Trailer of the Week this week are
Toy Story 4,
Avengers Endgame,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Professor and the Madman,
Us,
Spider-Man Far From Home,
and the Trailer of the Week for this episode is
Avengers Endgame, with the runner-up being Us. So, what'd you think of the trailer, Jimmy?
I actually thought it was really interesting. I especially like the emphasis on the colors like black, gray, white, and most importantly red, because let's be honest, it's Marvel. Anything with Marvel on it has to be slapped with red. But honestly, the lack of colors in the opening scenes for the first trailer was not really that bad. It's not really, well, it's really well done is what I meant to say. But I especially like their emphasis on red for certain characters like Vision, Iron Man, Ant-Man, etc. All the characters that use the color red or emphasize the color red, especially since it's going to be really eye-popping to the eyes. Especially since another thing that really caught my attention is that there's a lack of real footage of the movie shown, and that's kind of worrying me because the film is set to be over 3 hours long, which, let's be honest, is kind of long, especially for a Marvel movie, but then again, nothing's really that long for Marvel. But other than that, I think this trailer gives me high hopes for it, even though it kind of is iffy in some spots. So, Matt, what did you have to think about this? What did you think about this trailer?
What I thought about the trailer is pretty much like you. What worked for me is it's like you could finally see whatever happens like after Avengers Infinity War, which leaves a pretty good cliffhanger for the next movie. So other than that, and also the flashbacks with the previous Marvel movies, I mean, that was also a nice touch for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was also a nice touch as well. But anyway, today we're not talking about Avengers Endgame. We are talking about the smash Marvel hit that released Captain Marvel, which, what I was supposed to say was Captain Marvel, which released in theaters on March 8th, 2019. But what really makes this movie work, especially for a film like this, is the reviews. And it really shows that this film really has what it takes. IMDb rated it a 7.1 out of 10, which is not really that bad. Rotten Tomatoes rated it a 79%, which is honestly really good, especially for a movie like this. But Metacritic gave it a 68% on it. Yeah, 64. I was right before. Kind of a dip down, I would say. So, Matt, what did you think about the... So, can you tell us anything else about the movie?
Yeah, but whenever Captain Marvel first released in theaters, like over the first week, it had over like $286 million in the box office.
Actually, that was domestic, because Captain Marvel's still in theaters, by the way.
I know, but now in theaters, since it's still in theaters now, it's done over like $500 million now.
For the foreign market?
Yep, and for worldwide. And it's not bad for a film that has like a $152 million budget.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what really makes this thing work is that not only it's about a little over 2 hours, but I'd say that this film is really something special because it not only combines nostalgic things like Blockbuster, Jinko. I don't know. I don't think Jinko jeans were made in the 90s. But anyway, everything from the 90s that we like today and superhero is just a really good combination. The story flows interesting and the characters are honestly really relatable in some areas. So, Matt, got anything you want to add to that or anything
If I were to say about this film, it's one of those films to me that was like, it's not bad, but it's not great either. It's just one of those films that just leans in the all right category. It's like, I'm not saying that this film is bad or anything, but to me, it's just not great enough for me to recommend.
Okay. I think this is going to be the first film where we legitimately disagree with each other, because I thought that this was a great movie, because the characters, I admit, are really relatable, and they're not bland like Norm in the North. They're actually relatable because they have problems that they have to face, and the story actually flows pretty fluently, even though it's kind of rocky in some areas. You got anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, I felt like both the story and only some of the characters felt a little bit bland for me, mainly because it's like there are some things in the movie that had no purpose of being there, in my opinion. Spoiler alert for those who have not seen the story, of course.
Anyway, the story focuses on Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, who has no idea about her backstory and has basically no recollection of it. So she kind of gets caught up in some big event that not only drags her to Earth, but kind of takes her on a journey to figure out what she is, who side is she on, and basically just it's an emotional journey. And that's what kind of hits me there. So, Matt, you got anything to say about the movie story?
I thought the movie story was okay for me. I just don't think it was great enough in order for it to be an outstanding movie, like 100%. Now, I did enjoy all the action scenes. All the action scenes were very well done. But the story itself, to me, it just felt a little bit stale. I mean, not 100% bad. Like, there are some things that happen in the movie that just really confuse me. It's like there's no reason to have like something that's that confusing. Like whenever the time goes all over the place, there's like some things it's like you have no idea what they are. It's like what's that?
Well, it's kind of building up a sense of mystery, kind of building up a sense of what's going on. Like, who is Carol? Why does Carol have these memories? What do the Skrulls want that's so important to them? And that's kind of what this movie is trying to do. It's kind of building up this mystery of like, who is Captain Marvel? Why is she on Earth? Why does she have these memories? And that's kind of what really intrigues me. And I do kind of admit that the flashbacks kind of get in the way of the actual story, but I feel that it's really meant to build up this mystery, build up of this person that Carol is meant to be. So you got anything you want to agree or disagree on?
I think that's it. So let's see if the story needs to be fixed or not. Now that we gave our thought on the story, now we got to talk about if we think that needs to be any change in the story. So Jimmy, what do you think?
I think that this story doesn't need to be changed. I think the story moves fluently. I think it moves great for the time that it has, especially being for it over a little over 2 hours. But I kind of want to disagree with you on a couple of things that you said. The story does kind of get in the way, especially with some of the flashbacks, but I think the reason why they have those flashbacks in, it's like I said before, it's to build up this person that Carol is meant to be, build up her backstory, build up all these things that make her special, make her unique, make her one of the most powerful characters in Marvel history. But other than that, then I think the story doesn't need to be fixed. You got anything else you want to add to that?
I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. I think that Carol should just be someone who is not from Earth or someone just from space, just that they can make it so like she's not another Star-Lord or something like that, like in Guardians of the Galaxy. And I feel like that the flashback scenes, I think you should only have like only a few of them. I think they should throw out most of them. That would make the story a little bit like more, it'd make it flow better for me. And
well,
also, you got to make it like to where it actually feels like a real challenge, like to fight the villain, things like that. We could talk about that later, but I think that we should like have more of a strong motive than she did in this movie.
Honestly, I felt like this story was pretty well done, especially since it was really well done. And the flashbacks, I didn't think there wasn't really too much of them. I felt like they were really enough. They were telling the story of who Carol is. What was her past like? How did she get to be the woman that she is today? How did all the events that led up to the present, which in this case is the 90s, movie had happened? And that's what really drives this movie home for me. What really sets it apart from other Marvel films, because it shows that Carol was being manipulated by the Kree. It shows that they caused the accident. They are the ones to blame. She learns throughout her journey that she is not a Kree. She is a human. And I kind of agree with you on area that she's being a Star-Lord, but I also agree that she's a little bit like Spider-Man because she kind of get a little reckless, a little too hard-headed at times. But other than that, she does get the job done. So, Matt, you got anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I think the whole thing is, I think they should like have all the stuff building from like the beginning, and I don't think that it needs to happen like in the middle of the movie, because it's like, also there's nothing in the movie, bam, there's something right there. It's like, huh? So whenever you have something like starting to build from like the beginning of the movie and then work your way up like throughout the movie and then like go full on at the end of the movie, that's a way that I feel that you can actually make a whole lot better story.
Well, they don't necessarily just lay down the flashbacks towards the middle of the film. They spread them out evenly. They show them at the beginning of the film, the middle of the film, the end of the film. Just basically, they're tying stuff together. They're making sure that everything is connected. Everything is well done, packed in a nice little package, send off to the theaters, bada bing, bada boom, that sort of thing. But what this film is, it's just basically saying, hey, this is Carol's origin story. It's split up into parts so that way we could figure out the mystery, like, hey, this goes there, and this goes there, and this goes there. And that's the reason that they scattered it out. This is the reason why I think it's a really well done thing. So you got anything to add to that before we move on to the characters?
I think I'm done.
All right, so let's move on to the characters. And now we're going to give our thoughts about the characters of the film and basically see what we think about them. So, Matt, do you have anything to say about the characters?
Now, I thought that Captain Marvel was, she was all right, but I think that she just wasn't as powerful enough as people were making it seem. Like, to me, it looked like that Thor is actually more powerful than Captain Marvel is whenever it's supposed to be Captain Marvel beats everyone. Now, the villain that she goes up against, he was kind of weak to me. He wasn't really memorable, in my opinion. He wasn't bad either. But he was just a little bit bland and a little bit stale, but I still enjoyed all the action scenes. And I felt that, like, her friend that she goes to, like, in the middle of the movie, I didn't really see that she had a purpose there.
Well, I kind of disagree with you on that. The characters as a whole were really relatable. Maria Hill, not technically Maria Hill, but Maria was actually a really interesting character to me. She is the only friend she had on Earth before this whole shebang. Like, Captain Marvel got her powers and went out to the Kree planet, bada bing, bada boom. You probably know the rest by now because most of y'all watch the story. If not, then go ahead, buy a ticket and go to the movie theaters. But anyway, I'm getting off topic, so I'm just going to go back to the characters. The characters are actually relatable. Maria Hill's relatable because it's Captain Marvel's only connection to Earth. The Doctor was also a partner of Carol's, a person she could trust. But the Kree, they're actually the main villains. Jude Law's character is working for the Kree. The Kree is actually the bad guys here because they took Carol, brainwashed her head or something. I don't really know because not all of it's explained enough. But it's kind of left up to the imagination of what they did to Carol, what happened during this time. And I thought that was actually pretty unique. So, Matt, got anything else you want to add to that before I pass out?
What you said about Maria is that I didn't really find her interesting at all. I know it's supposed to be the whole thing of, like, she's the only friend that she had on Earth, but to me, I just don't think she was interesting enough for me to like. Like, she had a little bit of a little few cool gadgets, but in order to make a great supporting character, you want to like their personality. You want it to have, like, an interesting person, like, in general, not just someone who's just standing there like this, all boring. But anyway, and then, the only character that I really found interesting was just Nick Fury. And also,
of course you would find him interesting. He's played by Samuel L. Jackson.
And also Phil Coulson. Like, I was wondering, it's like, what were some of the things that he did, like, before Avengers? I would have loved to see more of Phil Coulson in the movie.
Honestly, I kind of would have to disagree with you on Maria Hill because she played in a very important part. She was a U.S. Air Force pilot who didn't take no nonsense. She stood her foot down. She was tough. She was intimidating. She wanted to prove her point. She was, not only that, she was only Captain Marvel's only friend on Earth, which really builds that connection. She tries to tell Carol, remember, and so do the Skrulls because they are looking after some device. But anyway, that's all I have to say on that. So let's move on to see how the characters need to be fixed. Matt, take it away before I run out of breath.
All right, that sounds good, Jimmy. So now we'll see if the characters need to be fixed or not. And for me, I'd say you'd probably need to. I don't think Maria has a purpose of being there, so I'd probably just throw her out. Now, before you tell me anything, let me explain. You don't want something there that doesn't really serve a whole purpose to the story. And I just felt like that her character was just like one of the solutions I was just looking for a problem to solve, if that makes sense. But with Captain Marvel, I would have made her a little bit stronger, make it look like that she's actually a lot stronger than Thor.
I honestly think that the characters are fine the way they are. Captain Marvel is pretty strong, pretty tough.
And to be honest, I think it would rather have been cool if you saw Captain Marvel battling Ronan before he met the Guardians of the Galaxy. That would have been a lot more cool, in my opinion, instead of the villain that they had her fight in this
Honestly,
movie.
that would have been something to add to the story, but we're talking about the characters. The character of Maria Hill, like I stated before, she's this tough, no-nonsense woman. She doesn't take no for an answer. She's a U.S. Air Force pilot.
You've already said this.
I know, Matt, but I'm emphasizing the point that this character really means a lot to Carol because it really builds up this person like, hey, this is a piece of her memory. This is something from her past. This is something that she needs to remember. She remembers the words that she tells her as a child because she's a friend. She's the only one she can trust. She's the only one that feels like a family almost, especially her daughter, who also feels like a child almost, even though that's not the whole point of it. But I felt that this really brings a connection to Maria and Carol. And Carol, even though she doesn't really show that much of her powers, I feel that she's really, really strong and able to take on Thanos. Even though we've seen very little of it, it could be expanded upon Infinity War that maybe she was training in that amount of time.
Well, maybe if she actually showed a lot more of it, that would actually make people really interested to see like what she's gonna do whenever she battles Thanos.
Yeah, but there's also the comic books. But there's also the comic books because this is based on a Marvel property, and Marvel is a comic company. If you really want to know what powers she could have, you could go read the comics. But in this film, I felt like she really did an outstanding job. There was a sense of, hey, maybe there's a way that Thanos could be defeated. Captain Marvel could find a way to defeat Thanos. And yeah, I know that we haven't seen much of her powers and she could be just as strong as Thor, but then again, I feel that this character is stronger because she's been up in space for quite some time. She went up into space towards the end of the film, and in the post-credit scene, she was there with the Avengers. Maybe she could be training in that amount of time. Maybe she could have took up several missions. Maybe she could have connected to her friend here and there. But that's kind of what I think would happen. Anyway, before I get out of breath, let's go ahead and give our ratings for the star rating system. If you've been watching for quite some time now, I suppose you already know the rules by now. We would give our ratings on it, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, or whatever. So, Matt, can you go ahead and give your rating before I run out of breath?
All right, so what I give this movie a 3.7 out of 5 stars. And mainly because, like I've said earlier, this movie, it wasn't bad, but it just didn't feel like great enough for me to recommend. Like, feeling that the story was a little bit bland, and also some of the characters felt a little bit bland and not as interesting. I mean, the only interesting were Captain Marvel and Nick Fury and Phil Coulson. Those are the only 3 characters I had an interest in. So, what about you, Jimmy?
I kind of honestly have to disagree with you on that. I honestly give the film a 4.9 out of 5 because I felt that this movie had a really decent story. It felt like it was really connected, really fluent, even though it had the flashback scenes in it. The characters, I admit, were really relatable. They connected to people. They made you think, hey, these characters are relatable. This story is relatable. This movie could be relatable to me in some point because most people might lose their memories due to a tragic accident or a tragic event and would have to pick up the memory piece by piece. But then again, I could be wrong. This film, it does have several problems with it, but I still think it's very good at heart. It's got a good story, got good characters, and that's why I give it a 4.9 out of 5. So what did you think of the movie? Did you like it or did you not like it?
Or also, if you want us to review a movie next, leave it in the comments below or follow us on our social pages. So Jimmy, where can they find you?
You could find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, and TikTok. So where can they find you, Matt?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube.
Whoa, what was that?
Oh, shoot, I forgot to turn off my collider again.
Why do you have a collider?
It was the cheapest thing on eBay, and I thought it was a telescope, so I bought it. Sorry for being confused.
Well, you stay here while I shut it off, okay?
Got it.